Thank you for the warm welcome, and thank you for coming to my talk. My name is Herman Saksono, and today I'm going to talk about the promise of storytelling and how informatics tools can make storytelling more powerful towards enhancing health equity, how we can use digital health tools to achieve health equity. But before I start, I would like to talk about my positionality. I'm an Asian cisgender man. I spent most of my life in Indonesia before I moved to the US. And this move from one culture to another helped me understand how the notion of privilege also changed from one culture to another. And in the past 10 years, I've been working with members of marginalized communities to develop health technologies. And all of this experience shaped the way I think and the way I do my research, as well as the way I interpret my research. And today I want to talk about how to incorporate storytelling into health technologies and how it has many health benefits. But before we do that, let's talk about why I'm doing this work. My personal health informatics research has been focused on physical activity with families in low socioeconomic status neighborhoods. And physical activity is very important, right? It reduces the risk of chronic diseases like diabetes type 2, cardiovascular diseases. It also has many potential health benefits like better mental health. But being physically active is challenging, especially for marginalized populations. Impoverished people, women, Black populations are unable to meet this goal, this physical activity goal of 150 minutes of physical activity per week because of the barriers that they face. And yeah, we can use fitness trackers like Fitbit or health apps to promote exercise. But a recent systematic review found that this concerning health equity concern, digital physical activity interventions are not effective for people with low socioeconomic status compared to people with privilege and people who are well off. And of course, these are structural issues, but our own systematic review gave additional insights into why these tools are less effective. A lot of this intervention, digital health interventions, did not provide social competence. They don't provide social support. As a result, people with limited resources, they are on their own on their journey to be healthy. And 1 year later, in 2019, under NIH, the National Institute, so there are NIH and then there's the National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparities. They validated our findings. They developed this framework on how to develop health interventions to reduce health disparities. And almost all of their R1 grants are focused on the individual, the leftmost column, 91%. And this is worrisome because interpersonal, community, and societal factors play an outsized role in health outcomes. And NIMD now requires grant applications to intervene in at least 2 levels or 2 domains of influence. So we should not just focus on the individual, but also examine the effect of interpersonal, community, and social factors in our health. That means examining families, school, work, and communities, and how we can amplify their power to support health outcomes. So because social factors is so important, I set sail on this overarching question: how can personal informatics systems be designed to leverage and impact social environments? And one approach that I used was storytelling, and this is the focus of the talk today. So first, I'm going to talk about how storytelling interactions can facilitate engagement in digital health tools. Because as you might know, engagement is one of the hardest thing in computer science. And after PN and PNP. And this is the approach that I use. So I built this app called Storywell. So this is a family app for families to read storybooks together and also be physically active. So the app was designed so that it's aligned with the health and educational aspirations of the families. So this is how it works. So in Storywell, every parent and their child set their fitness goal. And then they monitor their fitness using the fitness wearables. And then you can see the red balloons will represent the child's physical activity, then the blue balloons represent the parent's physical activity. And if the family completed their fitness goal, the hero, the girl, will be able to cross to one island to another. And then they will be rewarded with storybooks. And the storybook has multiple chapters and it ends with cliffhanger, so they're more motivated to meet their goals. And thank you. And these are the storybooks that I developed. So I developed the stories. I made 4 illustrations for 4 books. Did I expect that I will develop children's storybooks in my PhD? No, but it's really important to think about how to make intervention, digital health tools engaging and appropriate for our audience. So this is an outcome of my research. So why do I choose this interaction design? So theoretically, we know that satisfying the need of belongingness or relatedness will increase the motivation, for example, to use health apps. But many motivational items in health apps tend to rely on, virtual rewards like badges, trophies. And we are trying to move away from this by using social reward. These are rewards that catalyze social interactions that satisfy the need for belongingness and hopefully will enhance motivation. So to put our approach into the NIMD framework again, so we are not just intervening at the individual level, but we are intervening, we are leveraging the family interpersonal level by using family connectedness, family social connectedness as an asset to amplify engagement. So we want to know whether this works, right? And we start with qualitative study. So we conducted a study with families living in low socioeconomic status neighborhoods in Boston. And this is what we learned. We did find that the storybook rewards did give the feeling of social connectedness. So for example, this mother over here, she said that using the storybooks in Storywell felt like a treat because she got a chance to spend more time with her daughter to do something else. Mother number 5 said that Storywell kind of forced you to be closer. So we are very hopeful with this finding. And based on this finding, I theorized that social rewards that increase the need for belongingness can positively increase the outcome expectations to use a health app. And in turn, higher outcome expectations will increase the behavior, which is using the health app like Storywell. So how did I reach into this conclusion? So I'm informed by social cognitive theory, which is a very well-established theory in health behavior. And this theory said that our behavior, our cognition, and our social environment influence each other. And in our cognition, there are 2 key beliefs that shape our health behavior: self-efficacy and outcome expectations. So self-efficacy is our belief in whether we have the ability to successfully do a task. So like, I believe that I can walk for 15 minutes on Monday morning before I go to work. That's self-efficacy. And outcome expectations are our beliefs about what would happen if we do that. So I would be happy, I would feel refreshed after spending 15 minutes walk in the morning before I go to work. So going back to this conceptual model, the feeling of belongingness will create positive outcome expectations, which in turn will enhance engagement with the health behavior app. And this brings us to the first takeaway. Storytelling interactions that enhance belongingness can enhance the outcome expectations to engage with digital health interventions. So now we know how to support engagement with digital health tools. The next question is, what is the actual health intervention? Like we know how we know better how to support engagement with health app, but how can we support the behavior? And more importantly, how can we intervene at the community level and at the family level? So I examined how digitally mediated social modeling can facilitate community level social support. And this is a process. Social modeling is a well-known process in social cognitive theory, where essentially you develop your behavior by observing other people. Like I feel like I can be a successful professor because I saw Sina is a very successful professor. So this is how I implemented social modeling in Storywell. So as you might remember, you get the storybook reward when you completed your fitness goals. And then inside the storybook, families will find reflection questions where they can audio record their stories about how they were active as a family. And then they can, if the parent is the one who's telling the story, they can share the story on a neighborhood map. So this way, other families can learn from this story. And this is the social modeling feature in Storywell. And by implementing social modeling, we are intervening at the community level by amplifying community knowledge and best practices in being healthy in the form of stories. So we did the second evaluation to understand the social modeling feature, and this is what we found. So this is one of the stories that was shared by one of the families. This mother talked about Zumba and how she found Zumba to be very engaging, very challenging initially, but she kept on trying and trying and trying, and then she found enjoyment in Zumba, and she kept doing it. So this is one of the stories that was shared in Storywell. This is what another mother said after listening to the story. After she listened to that story about Zumba, she went to YouTube to watch Zumba videos together with her daughter. And this shows that just by listening how other people tried and be successful in being active as a family, the listener modeled her behavior based on what she listened. And again, informed by the social cognitive theory, I theorized that peer stories can enhance self-efficacy. Community stories can enhance self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is the belief in whether you can do the behavior like physical activity. And stories can also enhance outcome expectations. These are beliefs that good things will come out from being physically active with your family. So like, for example, the joyfulness and the happiness in being active with your children. And together, they support the health behavior, such as being active as a family. So this is really interesting, but what is it about stories that are particularly impactful? I think storytelling complements health guidelines that tend to be very factual, but missing the human touch. Your doctor might tell you, hey, you need to be more active. You need to spend 150 minutes exercising every week to maintain a healthy life. But can that information be complemented with other kinds of information? And the answer is yes. While doctors, they're not wrong, people also benefit from knowing that, their neighbors who has a child of the same age as your child managed to be active by finding a nice park near their house. And although it was exhausting, but it was a lot of fun, it was satisfying. And in fact, these are known as the pragmatic and the narrative ways of knowing. So in pragmatic ways of knowing, you are told that exercising is good for you because the evidence says so. Evidence after evidence shows that regular exercise is good, you should do it. But the narrative ways of knowing is more about human intentions, human actions, and the consequences that they experience. And the two complement each other. It doesn't mean that we have to use one over another, but we can use both. And my concern is that we see more pragmatic ways of telling in public health, but I feel like we need more narrative ways of knowing and learning. And I think technology has a lot of power to support that because it's easier to share stories with social media tools. So the second takeaway of this talk is peer stories is helpful for supporting people to learn information that enhance their self-efficacy and outcome expectations to the health group. And what we are seeing here is a technology-mediated social modeling, right? The observer modeled their behavior after uh, just maybe one story told by their peer. And this notion of technology-mediated storytelling, social modeling, is not just happening in Storywell, but we see that in other places too, like in online health communities, in peer support apps. But this is just one half of the picture of social modeling. So social modeling is more effective if the observer perceives the model as similar. Like I need to see myself in you if for me to do what you did. So this kind of makes sense, right? You need to be able to see yourself in the model in order for you to feel like you can do what the model did. But what does it mean to be similar? Like we don't know that for sure. The literature is inconclusive. Some studies found that demographic variables like gender and racial identities might be effective means to convey similarity. Other studies suggested that people with similar abilities are better models. And some studies suggest that experiential variables like barriers to physical activity might be a better signal of similarity. So if we can answer this big question, then we have the opportunity to make social modeling more optimal to support health behavior like physical activity. So that's why we conducted this study, another study, to identify effective categories of matching variables. And we conducted this study with single caregiver mothers who are at a higher risk of poverty compared to single fathers because of economic barriers. And we conducted a racially balanced study with equal numbers of white and black mother participants. And we presented this work very recently at CSUW. So in this study, we first asked, this is a pre-post study factorial. So first we asked the participants to do a pre-survey. And then the survey software, Qualtrics, essentially performed peer matching by matching or mismatching by randomly assigning the participants into one of the 8 conditions. So these are the conditions. So, 2 by 2 by 2. So you have 8 conditions. So for example, if you're in condition 1, so you will be in the fully not matched condition. So what that means is, suppose there's a black mother participant was randomized to this condition, fully not matched. Then she would be listening to a story told by a white father who, and this father, his ability and his experiences will not be matched to the participants. And then there's condition 8, the fully matched condition. If the same mother is in this condition 8, then she would be listening to a story told by a black mother. And this storyteller, the black mother storyteller, ability and experiences will be matched to the participants as well. And then there are participants in the partial matching conditions, such as condition 2. So in this case, the same mother will listen to a story from another black mother, but the ability and the experience of the storyteller will be mismatched. So then after that, after we set up the condition for each participants, we ask the participants to listen to a peer match story, and then we ask them to do a post survey. And this is a fully online study. We use a Qualtrics panel so that we can recruit nationwide sample of 309 participants. The stories were based on the real stories that we get from the previous Storywell study, but we want to protect the participants' identities. So we want to use real stories, but we don't want to disclose their identities. So we hired voice actors, and we had 4 voice actors, each representing the gender and racial identities. So all participants listen to the same story content, but the identities of the storytellers were varied. So we have in total of 96 story variations, which is hard to do in a real study, but in real world study, but doing it online makes it easier. So this is one of the stories.
I'm a single mother in my late 30s. I have 3 young children. We identify as Black. I'm not active. I've been trying to exercise with my family for the past few weeks, and I'm still working on it. I think being active together with my family is hard. I don't have any nice parks near my house, so I can't exercise with my family safely. Family physical activity that makes me happy is anything that involves me being with my children, whether it's going for a walk or the kids riding their bikes or us just enjoying ourselves. We're doing things, we're experiencing new things, exploring. I get a lot of enjoyment from watching my children being active and playing, and I try to be active and play with them too. I remember the time that my children and I walked from my house down to a small beach, about a 60-minute walk from our house. We walked to the beach and all the way home. It was fun. We were running, we were laughing. We had the chance for one another to keep up. The kids were super exhausted when we came home. Then they took showers and went straight to bed. We had a lot of fun and we got to spend some great time together as a family. I really enjoyed being together as a family doing something. Sometimes being active is not easy. I remember when we started doing Zumba. We watched Zumba videos together on YouTube. It was a lot of work. It was active. It was going. It was fun, but a lot of work. How did I deal with it? Just kept trying. Practice makes perfect. Just keep trying and trying and trying until I had fun with it. I think exercising is giving yourself the best chance of living a very long life. And if I want to see my children's grandchildren, great-grandchildren's children, I have to make sure that I live healthfully.
All right, that's the story. So every participant listened to the same story. This is a brief overview of the participants' background. They are more or less similar, but the Black single caregiver mothers participants, they are more likely to be not employed full time, which is kind of the limitation of the study, but also reflective of the experiences of Black single caregiver mothers in the U.S. So what did we found? We found that demographic matching significantly increased physical activity intention compared to not matching. So physical activity intention is the desire to be active in the next 7 days. But we only found this among Black single caregiver mothers. We didn't find any significance with white mothers. And we found medium effect size, very small. We also found that demographic matching significantly increased physical activity self-efficacy compared to not matching. So self-efficacy is the belief in whether you can be physically active, and this is a strong predictor of physical activity. And again, we only found this is only significant among Black single caregiver mother participants. We didn't find any significance among white mothers. So why are we seeing these racial differences? To help explain this, we borrowed the work by Tamara Poor on the experiences of Black students in predominantly white universities. So one of the explanation is the structural explanation, which is about how the U.S. society is structured, more specifically the overrepresentation of white individuals in many aspects of American society. And as a result, we suggest that racially congruent model is more meaningful if you are a member of racially minoritized groups. But there is another explanation, the agentic explanation. So as documented in education and medicine, Black individuals tend to actively seek connections with other Black individuals because they believe that Black individuals would be more supportive and more understanding of each each other. And we argue that this may not be just a simple homophily, but as Fias and friends have argued, it's about the experience of being Black in America rather than being Black itself. So what does it mean? um, so I think we still need to be careful. We need to better understand peer matching before we go nuts and implementing it widely. And this is why. A study by Nong and friends, they found that patients who experience discrimination in the past, they are more likely to withhold gender and racial information. And this systematic withholding could hamper demographic peer matching that requires gender and racial information. So we suggest that perhaps peer matching is not something that should be done by social media companies or tech companies or hospital, but it's something that should be run by the community where community members trust more. But I think the most important takeaway is that, and this is, we work with community members to develop the paper and the discussions, especially. The most important thing is that these results show that members of marginalized communities have a lot of power in promoting health behavior, and health technologies should amplify this invaluable knowledge and social connections towards achieving health equity, which is the third takeaway of this talk today. So I've talked about all of these opportunities, but I want to talk about impediments as well. These are barriers that are often produced by society. The participants in the studies, they were dealing with many barriers. For example, caregiving duties, especially if they have young children with special needs. And this big caregiving responsibilities took away a lot of the time away from them to maintain an active lifestyle or even use an app. Some families did not feel safe to exercise outdoors because of the crime concerns in their neighborhoods. Some families had to deal with disruptive life events like health issues, job instabilities, housing instabilities. And during the pandemic, I mean, we're still in the pandemic, social distancing creates more burden for caregivers because they have to play more responsibilities. They have to be caregivers. They have to be, they have to go to work, be employed, and they have to be the teacher for their children at the same time. And most of the time, as I have said before, these impediments, barriers are beyond people's control, right? Decades of marginalization and systemic racism put a burden on people's ability to be healthy, which results in health disparities. So what can we do? Is there anything that we can do? I think so. Yeah. In my research project, I collaborated with several community organizations, and these community organizations provide critical services that help families cope with the challenges that they face. These community organizations provide programs to support their communities, and they often help their community members to in advocacy efforts to counter injustices. This is why in my short note in Nature, I echo what many health scientists have been saying, that it's really important to help activate community power, allowing community members to play a bigger role in strengthening their community well-being from within. And this is why I do community-based participatory research, because I think it's really important that my research is not only for co-developing technologies for supporting health behavior, but also for activating the power from within the community to create changes at the societal and policy level. And I think this is where storytelling technologies can play a role. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I would like to share with you these very early, very preliminary ideas. And I'm very open to your feedback, so please let me know if you have any thoughts. As you might remember, one of the mothers in the study said that she couldn't use health apps because she was marginalized as low socioeconomic status, single caregiver mothers who had tons of responsibilities and little time to use health apps. But these experiences of marginalization was not unique to her. You know, many people are struggling because of marginalization, and stories are quite effective for communicating these shared experiences. And this is actually what another mother said during the interview. Listening to stories from other mothers who spent lots of time making sure their kids are happy, their kids are well and healthy, validated her experience that she's not the only one who was doing this. Like, she's part of a larger community effort to support their children. And more importantly, stories made our experiences as part of a course towards justice. And this is not my own thinking. Many people before me have highlighted the value of stories to support social movements. And this made me very hopeful that we can do many good things by using digital storytelling tools for supporting social movements that are driven by community members. And with that, I'm happy to take your questions and thank you for coming to my talk.